Hello, and welcome to the Designing with Love podcast. I am your host, Jackie Pellegrin, where my goal is to bring you information, tips, and tricks as an instructional designer. Hello, instructional designers and educators. Welcome to episode 94 of the Designing with Love podcast. I'm thrilled to have Sairam Sundaresan with me today. Sairam is an AI engineering leader and the author of AI for the Rest of Us. With his passion for making AI accessible and practical, he brings a valuable perspective on how this technology can be understood and applied by everyone. Welcome to the show, Sairam.
Thanks for having me, Jackie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you. And I usually like to give a shout out to Podmatch when I have guests that come on that have been matched through Podmatch. So I'm glad we got connected and had a chance to have this wonderful and engaging conversation today.
Yeah, thank you, Podmatch. Yeah, excited to talk about some cool topics.
Great, yes. So to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and share what inspired you to focus on AI engineering?
Sure. So I am an AI engineering leader. I currently lead a team of engineers who are trying to help cars drive safely and park safely by themselves. And prior to this, I was working in both the data center and mobile phone industries, and I was working on AI-related topics there as well. So I've sort of spanned 15 years in AI, which makes me sound like a dinosaur considering how fast AI is moving. But that being said, it's given me the opportunity to see several inflection points in this amazing technology and also work with some of the brightest minds in the world on this. And what's got me into the field was actually my passion for photography. When I was a kid, I was taking a ton of pictures with my parents' camera. It was a film camera at the time, and I used to love manipulating the images in the lab. But what I realized along the way of that journey is that I could use those images to teach computers to understand the world. So I found that there was this entire field that focused on this particular topic, and I was hooked. And since then, I've spent every moment trying to learn as much as I can. And that's how I've gotten into AI, and that's how I continue to learn.
That's great. So you didn't expect to actually go into this field, and it was a love of another subject in another area, photography, that led you to do this. So that's really great. Wow. I love that when you go into it accidentally or it falls into your lap and you don't realize, wow, this is something I really love and I want to continue doing it and advocate for the field, right? So it sounds like that's what you're doing too, because you work with a team of engineers and you're able to help them hone their craft and their skills and help move this field forward. So that's really great. It sounds like you're advocating for the profession and for the industry as well. So I love that. That's great.
I really appreciate that. And what I like to tell people is that by day I'm teaching machines to understand the world, and by night I'm teaching people to understand machines. So
oh wow! So it's a cyclical process, right? Yeah,
it is a cyclical process. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So, in talking about your book, as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, you've written AI for the Rest of Us with the goal of making this technology approachable, because it can be a little bit scary at times, right? So for those who might feel overwhelmed by AI, what are some of the biggest misconceptions and how do you help people move past them?
So there are a ton of misconceptions, and I'll probably try to stick to a few. The first thing is that AI is going to solve everything. It's not. And at the moment, if you think about artificial intelligence, there's like two broad classifications. There's artificial narrow intelligence and artificial general intelligence. The latter is what people are concerned about. And that's something where an AI can do all kinds of tasks at a level that is, at least human level or significantly higher. And my honest take is we are not there yet. And for the follow-up of people might be asking, oh, when is AGI coming? Should we be worried? I don't know. And the honest answer is there's a lot of smart people looking into how AGI might come about, and I don't have a timeline for it. Now, coming back to artificial narrow intelligence, most of, if not all of the things that we see in modern AI is is going to fall into this category. This means that these are AI models that are good at one specific task and are insanely good at it. And for example, your chatbot is really good at giving you responses. It understands your question, quote, air quotes, understands your question,
Right.
and responds to you in a way that feels like it's getting what you're saying. Your smart speaker at home listens to your voice, is able to decipher what you say, and then reply to you with either an action like turn on the lights or play my favorite song, something like that. So these are things that are good at one specific task. And with AI, the idea right now is if the task is very well defined, is narrow and well scoped out, chances are AI will be very good at it. If the task is very broad, generic, and not well scoped out, AI won't be as good. And the misconception I see a lot of people having is AI is going to, I'll throw AI at any problem and it will solve it. It might, but chances are, unless you are very particular with the constraints, it's not going to do a good job. So that's probably the biggest misconception. And happy to pause here and maybe talk about other things if you have a follow-up.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Because I think some people just have this I agree. People have a misconception that they can just give it anything, give it any prompt, and it'll just give them what they want, right? And it'll give them the answer. But that's not always the case. So yeah, that's interesting. Because we have where I work, we have a closed system model. It's our own LLM that they created because we have proprietary information that's has curriculum and policies and procedures. And I've been actually working with this model, and it has chatbots within it, but I've been working for it, Sairam, for about 3 or 4 days trying to get something specific. And I was very specific in my prompt. Like I said, you're an instructional designer. This is what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is get a curriculum map. And I'm trying to get a downloadable, I tried an Excel document before, and I tried uploading all the syllabi documents. And there's just so many in this program. I think I don't think the system is able to handle it right now. So I tried copying and pasting it from the syllabus in there and just putting the text in there. And it seemed to work better, but still after 3 days, I'm still not getting an output. And I keep asking it, how's it coming along? And it's like, oh, I'm doing this. And I'm like, okay, am I really going to get an output? And so even today, before I got off work, before I logged off, I checked with it and I said, how's it coming along? Oh, I'll get it to you by the end of the day. And I'm like, still don't have it. So I've tried different formats, and I've tried different strategies, and I'm get stuck at a certain point. So it's very interesting. I'm like, well, maybe the technology is just not caught up to that yet. And maybe our tech team needs to finesse this LLM model a little bit more.
So that's where the interesting bit is, because I feel like with AI, especially the use cases, we are kind of writing the user manual as we go. So there isn't a right way to do things or a wrong way. There are just, there are best practices around, but there isn't like a recipe that if you copy paste it from one model to another or one interface to another, it just works out of the box. And that's kind of where spending time with these tools and seeing how they respond to smaller tasks, when you get past the initial excitement where you give it a toy task and it does spectacularly well, you feel like, oh wow, this is going to completely change the way I work. Then you hit this wall of frustration because you try to give it a little more tasks that are complicated, and then it doesn't give you the response you want. And then you try finessing your prompt, you try to go back and forth, and there's a lot of trial and error that comes into the picture. So this is where spending time with these tools and then figuring out what type of response, like how do you break up the response. And generally, especially with chatbots, I have a rule of thumb, which is never take the first response. The way that I think about it is, if you had a new employee join your team or an intern join your team, They're joining your team without any context about the role, about the policies, about where they can find things and how they need to do their job. And if you are asking them to do a task for you, their first attempt will not be anywhere close to what you expect or what is usually the standard of the results, usually, right? Unless this is an exceptional employee who's knocking everything out of the park.
Right.
So then how do you get this employee to ramp up and then support you? You actually give them examples. You show them how it's done. Like, this is how I do it. Here's where you can find these documents. This is what's inside these documents. Here's how you connect the dots. Here's the task I want. Here's the input, and this is what I expect as a result. And when you do this, you notice that the results they produce are closer to what you expect. And the same is true for any of these AI models. Think of them like an intern or a new employee that you are onboarding onto your team. And every chat, if you treat it in that way, it becomes easier, because yes, these models have this notion of memory where, it kind of knows your preferences, or like based on your past interactions, it can say, oh, Jackie preferred this type of output or did this type of task. So I'm guessing she would, expect it in this format. But my take is always, think of it like you're onboarding a new colleague, and be easy on them. Give them as many instructions as you can, as specific instructions as you can, and then go back and forth. So that's when you'll get more useful outputs.
I like that. That's great. That's something I've been practicing too, using that. And I actually just upgraded with ChatGPT. I was using the free version of it, and I was using it so much that I would, of course, hit my limit every day. And so I was like, oh no, I'm hitting my limit. And then it would go to the lower model right after it hits that limit. So I decided to take the plunge and get the $20 a month paid one. And I've noticed such a huge difference between the free and that. And it's amazing. So there was, I think it was 2 days ago, I spent about 2.5 hours with the tool, with ChatGPT, and I was refining some things and working on some materials. And I just kept going back and forth with the model and just saying, okay, yeah, you kind of got that there, but maybe we could try this, or repurpose this, and just work through it. And so it really was nice because, oh yeah, you got a good point there. So, I just kind of, like you said, just worked with it as if it was my assistant, or, or a new employee, as if it doesn't know some of that content. And so, yeah, it was nice. And it kind of encourages you along the way, as long as you're kind of giving it that encouragement too. It will respond in that way. Right. So it's neat to kind of have that experience and go, okay, I know this is a machine, but this is pretty cool. This is neat. It's kind of a fun experience too, to kind of experiment with it and see where you can go and what you can get from it. So
exactly.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I love that. That's great. So many of my listeners are educators and instructional designers who are curious about how AI can support their work. From your perspective, what are some practical ways AI can enhance teaching, learning, or the design of learning experiences? Hello, I have some exciting news to share with all of my listeners. There is a feature called Fan Mail. What this allows you to do is send me a text message anytime during the episode. There's a link located at the top of the description in each episode, and it says send Jackie a text message. So when you click on that link, you'll be able to send me a message letting me know what you thought about the episode, and if you have any ideas for future episode content as well. I look forward to seeing your text messages. Thank you.
This is a gold mine of a topic, and there's a lot to dive into this. So I don't come from an educational background, although I'm a passionate educator myself. So let's see. So one of the things that you immediately recognize is that with learners and students in general, no two students or learners are the same. They have different needs. They maybe learn better with different media. They may be at different points in their learning experience and journey. And therefore, if you design a single curriculum that is going to cater to each of these learners, it may not land as effectively. And the other thing is, as teachers, you probably have finite time interacting with these students during the course of a term, or if it's an online course, for the duration of the course. And the other challenge is, for the teacher, it's a lot of cognitive load, because one learner might get things really quickly and they may ask you for advanced material. They probably might ask you if you have what's next, and how do I take this to the next level. And then you have another learner who's probably not there yet and trying to catch up. And for them, you may have to invest a ton of time and energy trying to explain how something works, or how they can understand something better. And if you now add AI, which is a 24/7 private tutor that's available, that can tailor the learning experiences based on the current level of a learner and based on the media that they learn best from, you suddenly have this tool that scales education for these teachers, right? Because all of a sudden they can ensure that each student gets the care that they need,
Right.
without these teachers sort of stretching themselves too thin. You get courses that you could have custom quizzes designed by these AI models based on the material, that are tailored to the learner's weak spots, because it's not something where you have a test and then have a test a few weeks later. If you want, you could have quizzes every day. Not saying learners should have quizzes every day, but my point is that if they have certain areas where they're having a bit of trouble with, you can spend more time on that. And this can be done outside of the classroom environment. So all of a sudden, learners now have access to a infinitely patient 24/7, 365-day private tutor who is able to probe and ask and teach at a level that is sort of helping them learn where they are. And for the teacher, it allows them to then design experiences around that. So they have now a TA that's available to help. And for designers, all of a sudden, you can get instant feedback on, like, if you have slides for a particular course, you can get feedback on where the students in general didn't get the material. So maybe some slide needs to be redesigned, for example. Or you can think about, is there a particular topic that was not covered in depth, and was there a demand? And you can have a turnaround of a week as opposed to a semester. And I feel like that's opening up entire new opportunities in education. But I'll stop here.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's wonderful, Sairam. I love that, because I work in curriculum design and development, my daytime job. And then in the evening, I teach online classes in instructional design. So hearing that perspective is great. And it reinforces what I'm already doing as an educator and as a instructional designer. So it's fabulous. And I really hope that those that work with me listen to this, and also my students, because a lot of them are educators, a lot of them are teachers. So being able to tap into this technology, I think, like you said, it personalizes the learning, it allows us to make changes on the fly. So like you said, we don't have to wait a whole semester or anything like that, because sometimes when we wait too long for the curriculum, you're trying to play catch up, and then you feel like your students are already behind the curveball. So it's great when you can have that opportunity to make sure that curriculum is up to date and it's applicable to what they're going to learn on the job. So that's great, especially in fields like, I would think, healthcare, like nursing, and like what you do, engineering. We have Grand Canyon University has engineering programs, and the science and engineering are really big areas at the university, but also education is really big right now. And so counseling in those areas. And so trying to help them to understand that AI can come alongside them and be their, like you said, their tutor or their assistant, and not look at it as something that they should be scared of. So yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So if you think about what teachers can do best, they can look at students and see how they're responding to material or how they're responding to certain topics in conversation, and you can see it in their body language, their eyes, their face, and you can see when somebody is motivated or is getting what is being said versus somebody who is a little maybe they don't get the material at first go, and that is a qualitative signal that only teachers can get. And on the other hand, the quantitative side comes from these AI tutors because they know how many times a student had to retake a quiz, exactly which questions they tripped up in, and where they need extra support. And all of a sudden, you have both sides of the coin, which allows you to design and develop a holistic learning experience. So for me, I'm just so excited about what is available for education in this day and age versus what was available back in the day.
Right, exactly. One thing you mentioned, Sairam, was cognitive load, and that's something in my field in education, but especially in instructional design, that we're always trying to keep at the forefront. And I always remind my students about that because it's based on cognitive psychology that our brain, our working memory, can only handle so much information. And so if we put too much on the students, if we info dump on them, and the technology is too much for them, if that's a barrier to them, then they're going to struggle, right? And they're not going to they're not going to get that. So we don't want to put any barriers in front of them. We want to make sure that it's accessible for them and that they feel like they're not having to work around things or anything like that to try to get to what they need to. So yeah, so it's nice when these tools can help them with that. And like you said, then the teachers and the educators can focus on what they need to do to help that learning move forward and to help them have those moments where they go, oh, I understand that now. And now I can take this into the workplace and I can apply it, because the program I teach for, they do it's project-based learning, which is really great. I love that because they're able to, there's only maybe 1 or 2 papers in the whole entire program of the courses I teach. All of the rest of the assignments are all project-based, where they have to literally do this. And I have a course I'm teaching right now, you'd love this, where they have to use an AI tool twice. So they have one assignment that's about situational leadership, and they have these prompts for these for the 4 readiness styles, and they have to take the prompt, put it into an AI tool, and converse with that tool and get that individual. So the AI tool, like ChatGPT, plays the employee, and then they play the instructional designer. And so they have this conversation with them, working with them as the leader and trying to get them to move from one leadership style to the next, or one situational, model to the next. So it's very interesting to do that. And then another one they did that I'm grading this weekend is where they had to build an e-learning module on, it was for like a fake tech company about their policies and procedures. And so they had to use the tool to help kind of build that content and refine it. So, but it's funny because some of my students, they feel like, and I think even educators do too, but some of my students actually told me in messages and in their reflection afterwards that they felt like they were cheating. And I was like, really? That's surprising.
Suddenly you have all these superpowers, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, but yet educators, they're like, they think in the back of their mind. So many of them, I've been to webinars where they think in the back of their mind and they'll type it in. They'll be like, how do I know if my students' DQ responses are genuine or not? How do I know if they're not just utilizing AI? And I'm like, well, yeah.
Well, chances are they are.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, but before, and I thought to myself and I put some responses in there. I said, well, what happened before AI? They found ways to cheat, so if students are going to cheat, they're going to cheat no matter what, whether AI is there or not. If you remove the tool, they'll find ways to do it. I mean, I could search quiz questions for the classes that I help design, and you can find them online, or you go to Course Hero and you can find them. So absent of AI, I think they can still do it. Right? Exactly. I mean, they've had Turnitin. Turnitin's been around for a long time, and institutions have used those to check for plagiarism, right? So yeah, so before AI was around, Turnitin was around. So it's funny. But yeah, my institution, they don't want to police the students. They want to make sure that they're using it ethically. So that's the most important aspect. So yeah, that's great. So that kind of goes into my next question about,
Okay.
this being such a powerful technology. There's always those ethical considerations. I think just as society as a whole, and not just in education, but what do you think are some of the most important things that educators and designers, or maybe even anyone, you can open this up to anything, that they should keep in mind when using AI responsibly in their classrooms or their training programs, or maybe just in general in life? Feel free to open that up to other things too.
So I feel like there's a lot of there's a lot of ground to cover here, and
Right.
from an ethical perspective, the very first thing that comes to mind is like the material itself. Make sure that if you know respect copyright and ownership of the material, the lineage of the material, so that way don't like use material from without consent on training these models to create better educational experiences, because at the end of the day this is somebody else's work that is that they've probably put months or years into to develop, and you need consent or appropriate compensation before you consider using it to train or build an AI learning experience. So that's one that comes off the top of my head. The second one is more related to sort of from like a learner's side. I feel the ethical side, you just touched on it, which is don't coast or mail it in by just using AI to respond to everything, because it will respond in a very plausible way. But here's the kicker: chances are it's hallucinating part of the response. Like there's been cases when the AI model has hallucinated textbooks that don't exist as part of a citation, or research papers that don't exist, for example. So if you are just throwing every question into an AI model and expecting an answer, in the long run, that's actually going to hurt you. And don't do that to teachers or educators who have spent hours trying to figure out how best to teach and make sure that you understand the material. That's the second one I can think of. The third one is in terms of usage itself, because there is like AI consumes a ton of energy, and so using it responsibly is sort of important for us to ensure that we aren't, from the perspective of electricity and carbon emissions and all of those things. It's crucial that we use it. Don't use it just for dad jokes. Use it responsibly for something where you need that extra assistance. So the fear that I always have is like there might be like if you have a 24/7 TA next to you to help you with everything, what happens when that TA is suddenly not available? So don't make it a crutch, and don't be overly dependent on it. Use your thinking first, and then see how it lines up with what the model has to say. And the other ethical thing I would just generally say is this sort of applies to things beyond education, like interviewing and all of those things. I see that there's a sudden rise in people either impersonating others, like by using AI to change their appearance, or by using AI to answer the questions that are asked in an interview. And those are just areas that it leaves a very bad taste in the mouth for the companies doing the interviews. So that's just a few that came to mind.
Wow. Oh my goodness, that is scary. I didn't think that was that. That's something I haven't heard of before. So you brought that to my attention. So they're impersonating other people in the interview and answering the wow. Oh my goodness. So
they're basically they're creating fake personas. So the resume says they have all of these skills and everything, and then when you look at their when they come on a video interview, they use AI to change their appearance so it looks like some person, and that way they're it's a very murky area that has been coming into the news of late, and I just find it extremely distasteful.
Wow, that is. And it's it's so unethical, because they're not being genuine about who they are. And so
Or what
that's
they
really
know.
sad, and what they know.
Mm,
Wow.
mm.
That's really sad. So just like with any technology, we have to be careful and have those guardrails in place. Wow. And I'm glad that you brought up the part about being mindful of how much we use it because of the energy it consumes, right? The carbon emissions and everything. Because here in the United States, we have data centers that they're building, and they're huge data centers. I think there's one in Texas they're going to build, and there's another one. I forget where the other one. There's some other one that they're going to build. I think somewhere south, but I can't remember where. And so the administration's trying to do that, get ahead of it, because as they say, we know China is trying to win the AI race. So it's like, oh, how do we get ahead of that? But yet it's like, well, we still have to be ethical about how we go about it. So we don't want to get ahead of it, but then and try to beat China, but then hop, skip, and jump over things and do all of that. So there's always that ethical component anytime there's technology in place.
Yeah, there's always two sides to the coin, right? So just being cognizant of that and being responsible, I think that's crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much for that. That's amazing. Those ethical considerations are always something that we have to keep at the forefront of our minds. Absolutely. So before we move into the final question, I'd love to slip one more in as a bonus question that I know will resonate with my listeners. So looking ahead, what are a couple of things that excite you the most about the future of AI, and what should educators and instructional designers be preparing for now to stay ahead?
So in terms of what excites me, it's just the number of things that we considered impossible just a couple of years ago are now suddenly within grasp. And a lot of the ideas that seem like fiction are suddenly like possible, if not plausible, right? It's important for us to. The thing I'm most excited about is just being empowered to do and try different things and actually see the outcome of those things without a long turnaround time. But because previously, for anything in tech, if you needed to build something and see how it works, it would take weeks or months, and you'd need a large team, and it would, like you couldn't try out a whole bunch of ideas all at once and see how they turned out, because it would just be infeasible. Now, all of a sudden, with AI assistance, you can quickly prototype ideas, and therefore you can either, veto a whole bunch that aren't, good to go forward yet, and you can find the ones that have a lot of potential very, very quickly, and with a fraction of the time and cost that it would take otherwise. The other thing I think I already spoke about is like education. I'm super excited about how AI is going to change the field, and for me, just being able to even for me, right? I mean, like there's this tool called Notebook LM that I use all the time, and it's completely changed the way that I learn new topics or concepts, because AI is evolving so fast, and I try to keep up with a whole bunch of research papers that come out. And all of a sudden, Notebook LM allows me to do that more efficiently, and I can create mind maps, I can create quizzes, I can even have, like, if I'm short on time, it creates a podcast for me to listen to based on the material, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And just for me to have all of these tools at my fingertips is a blessing, and just I'm excited to see where this goes from here in terms of education, and for me to help teach others. So those are the two things I'm excited about. Now, coming to what learners need to be and instructional designers need to be preparing for, I would just say the easiest way to start is spend time with these tools. Just pick a tool that you want to use. It can be anything, your ChatGPT, Claude, something else. If you're in design, maybe a tool like Canva or Gamma, and just play around with the AI component of those tools and just see how to use it, interact with it. Like I said, there is no user manual. We're kind of writing it as we go. So just as you spend more and more time with it, you figure out the patterns that allow you to get to the desired results faster. And they also allow you, a safe space to experiment, try new ideas out, and then see and maybe unlock new use cases that were previously something you hadn't considered or thought about. So from that perspective, it's just play with the tools. And then the other aspect is maybe have a basic sense of AI literacy, and just understand how these models work behind the scenes. I'm not saying you need to know how to code these up or do any of those fancy things. If you can, fantastic. But just understand how they work and how they're built, because that gives you context into their strengths and limitations. And then that in turn allows you to work more effectively with them. You know where they're not good, where you need to step in, and conversely, where they are good, so that you can step back and then do something else that you are good at. So that's what I'd suggest.
Well, those are great tips. I love that. That's great. And I love that you mentioned for education Canva and Gamma, because I use those tools quite a bit myself. And I even I used it for work recently with Gamma, and I took some of my old PowerPoint slides, because I've been teaching OneNote for quite a while to help my coworkers to get more organized and kind of take maybe some of their ideas and just kind of organize them a little bit better, because we have OneNote as part of Office 365. So I had them, PowerPoint's great and PowerPoint serves great purposes, but I thought, can I kind of refresh these and give them a little bit of a boost and everything like that? So I went to Gamma, because one of my students had her presentation in Gamma, and I was like, "Oh, what's this? Okay, I'm learning all kinds of tools here as an instructor. It's amazing." And then my students are like, "Hey, yeah, go use 11 Labs and go." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's amazing how much I've learned in 5 years, and then just how the tools just keep getting better." But yeah, I was able to take those presentations and really take them to the next level. So it was fun, and it didn't take a lot of time because I already had the content. So I was just putting it in a different format and kind of just reimagining it and what it could look like. So yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. And Canva, oh my goodness, I love Canva. Wow. The Canva code, I've used that a few times, and it's really neat to actually see as it's coding and it's creating it for you. And then, like you said, just like with AI, you have to kind of tweak it a little bit, work with it. I've had to do that sometimes, where I asked it to do a matching game, and it didn't turn out that great the first time. It was okay, but not everything worked. And I was like, okay, well, can you do that? And then I asked it to actually do like a little celebration thing at the end, where it gave it actually works now really well. But at the end, when you match everything, this little trophy will come up and it'll do the little confetti at the end. So it's really neat.
Nice.
So I asked it, can you please do this? And then I saw it as it was coding. It was really fun to actually see it in action, and then just work with it a little bit and say, okay, yeah, not quite right. Can you do this? And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. There's another tool out there. Have you heard of Genially before? It's spelled Genially. It's an interactive tool where you can do like interactive infographics and quizzes and escape rooms and stuff like that.
I need to check this out.
Yeah, you'll have to check out Genially. One of my students introduced it to me a few years ago, and now they've got AI technology in there where you can actually take your interactive piece, and you can, if you have to, I have the EDU Pro version, which is $60 a year here in the United States. I don't know how much it would be where you are, but it's really nice because you can get premium templates and you get some of the AI technology. But if you go up, I can't remember if it's Elite. I can't remember which one it is, but you can actually have it translate your Genially into different languages. So for example, if I was teaching a Spanish class, I could have it in Spanish too. Or if I have learners from all over, I can translate it to other languages. So I was like, wow, that's pretty neat. And so it uses that AI technology to translate it. But if I did that, I would want someone that knows that language really well to double check the work and not just assume that it translated it correctly. But
I love that you said that. I was just going to say that's and that applies to any educational experience, right? And all of a sudden, you as a teacher are no longer limited by language. You can teach students worldwide who come from different cultures. But again, trust but verify. So have somebody.
Absolutely, I love that. Great. So as we wrap up, based on your journey as an AI leader and author, what's one piece of encouragement or advice you would give to listeners who are looking to enhance their skills in AI technology?
I would say that pick a topic that you are really excited about, or pick a problem that is bothering you a lot, like scratch your own itch, And if it's a problem that is something that you do try to solve on a daily basis, just write it out, and write out the steps basically, and then try to explore how AI can replace each step one by one. It may be able to replace a step, it may not, but just see how you can bring in AI into that workflow. And chances are a lot of that might be automated away. And as you do this, you then start learning to use AI for different types of sub problems. And then over time, those become different types of problems. So you're building the muscles that are necessary to use AI and think in a way where you try to solve a problem first by yourself. You use your own critical thinking, and wherever you feel that there are inefficiencies or where you need that extra support, you figure out, okay, here's where AI can step in, and this allows me time to do something else, or this allows me to completely automate away this problem, so I don't need to think about it. That's how I would approach it. And then the second one is like just trying to keep up with what's going on. I know that there's a lot of hype around the area. There's like every day there are announcements on this tool's come out and it's going to completely change the world and all of that. But try to keep a pulse on what's going on. Generally, if a particular topic or tool is in the news for more than 4 to 6 weeks, chances are there's something there. If it's there for only 1 or 2 days, then I would exercise caution. So those are the two suggestions in addition to what I said about AI literacy.
Right. Great. I love that. Keeping an eye on those things and not taking it for face value, right? And really keeping that critical thinking lens. And that's what some of the instructors I've talked to over time, the last few months, that they said they're fearful that their students are going to lose that critical thinking. And I said, well, then our job as educators is to ensure that they don't, and create authentic assignments where they don't cheat, right? Automatically. They don't want to do it because they want to actually do that assignment. And so we're trying to, as an institution, that we're trying to get away from so many papers and not have a lot of papers. I mean, they still need to know how to write, but we always try to think of what do they need to know in the field to be able to get into whatever particular industry they're trying to go into. So I think that's so important to have that in place, and so that they know that they can do that. So yeah, that's great.
Right.
I love that.
I mean,
Lots of great.
we've had open book exams in the past, and one of the things that affords the teacher is that you can set really interesting questions that you don't have a direct answer to, and you'd have to do a bit of work. You'd have to look at different sources and then come up with an answer that is sort of helping you assimilate the material. Now with AI, that open book concept becomes, it goes to a completely different level, because you instantly get the answer, but again, you need to fact check. There's all those kinds of things. But I wonder if there is a way to create an experience that simulates open book, but using AI in a way where you are practically testing things, as opposed to, like you said, just having people done in reports and papers, because those are the kinds of assignments where I feel students might learn the best, because they are forced to use AI and at the same time they're forced to use their own thinking.
Right. I love that. Yeah, kind of like the assignments that I'm grading, and it forces them, like you said, doesn't just have one part to it. It has multiple layers to it. So you can see, did the students really understand it? And I can tell, they're not just putting that input in there and just getting the output, doing a screenshot, but they're actually learning from it. And then the reflection that they did afterwards when they did that first assignment was, what went well, what would you do differently next time? How would you converse with with those different individuals, in the AI tool next time to make it better? And what did you learn through that experience? So that's something AI can't replicate is those experiences. So it's really great to see that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, just keep growing and keep learning, right? That's the key. Great.
That's the key.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sairam, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today here on the podcast. The wisdom that you've offered for making AI more accessible to your guidance and applying it responsibly will no doubt inspire and encourage my listeners in their own paths as they continue to explore these tools and learn to integrate them into their lives. I love it.
Thank
Great.
you so much. It was a pleasure to learn from you as well. I think I learned a ton about how the thought that goes behind building courses and learning experiences. So this was super interesting.
Great. Yes. I look forward to having you back on the show, because once I have someone on my show once, then we always think about there's something else we could talk about. Like you said earlier, we could dig in and we could really, hone in on some other areas too. So if there's anything you think of along the way and you want to come back on the show, feel free to do that. I'd love to have you back on, and we can dig a little deeper and maybe even see where things take us. So I'd love that.
Definitely.
Great. Well, thanks again, Sairam. I appreciate it and look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. This is fun.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this podcast episode today. Your support means the world to me. If you'd like to help keep the podcast going, you can share it with a friend or colleague, leave a heartfelt review, or offer a monetary contribution. Every act of support, big or small, makes a difference, and I'm truly thankful for you.